How do you actually go about choosing a master's? Well, there are all sorts of methods you can use, and we've covered quite a few of them on the website. But one of the most obvious things you might be tempted to look at will be university rankings. Fair enough, but do rankings actually tell you much about universities? Are they specific to postgrad study? And should you be using them in your master's search? The answers are sort of, no, and maybe. Let's explain why. So, what types of university ranking are out there? I think there are three main varieties. Let's look at them. First of all, you've got your global university rankings. These are often referred to as world university rankings or similar. What they set out to do is to judge all the universities in the world according to the same criteria. And what they're trying to do is find the best institutions overall. There are three main examples. There's the Times Higher World University Rankings, there's the QS World University Rankings, and there's the Academic Ranking of World Universities, which is sometimes referred to as the Shanghai Ranking. In addition to these, you've got domestic university rankings, and as the name suggests, these just look at universities in one specific country. It means they can do things slightly differently, so they can compare things like employment outcomes and earnings on more of a level playing field. They tend to be produced by newspapers, so in the UK you've got The Guardian and The Telegraph that both produce these rankings. There's the US News that does the same for the USA, and so on. Finally, there are subject-specific rankings. So these look at the best universities for work in a specific subject area. So the best universities for business, the best universities for history, the best universities for chemistry, and so on and so forth. These tables are often derived from the global university rankings, produced by the same people and then just recalculated to focus on the things that matter for particular subjects. Spoiler, these subject-specific rankings are the ones I think you should be looking at in your master's search if you look at any. However, none of the rankings I'm talking about here are postgrad specific. There aren't really any postgrad specific university rankings that are widely accepted and respected. Exceptions are rankings for specific types of degrees, so there is actually a very well respected MBA ranking from The Economist, another newspaper, but overall there isn't a general postgraduate university ranking. Obvious question then, what do rankings actually measure? What are the league tables they produce really based on? Well, it depends on the ranking in question, but here are three things that most of them look at least some extent. The first is staff-student ratio. So this is how many staff there are in relation to the size of a university's student population. Can be a nice way of seeing how well-resourced a university is, but bear in mind this is almost always based on undergraduate numbers. Not really a great indicator for a master's where your class sizes will be smaller anyway. The next thing that rankings often look at is a university's reputation. They tend to do this by surveying academics, employers or other individuals and literally asking them what they think of a university overall or in relation to particular things they think that university should be good at, such as research performance, employability, training and so on. This sort of thing can tell you something about a university's reputation, obviously, and perhaps give you a sense of how well regarded your degree certificate might be, but it can also be a bit of a self-fulfilling process. You can imagine, can't you, that the most famous universities and those that already have the highest reputation tend to do quite well in reputational surveys, whereas a newer university that's actually very good at postgrad study in your subject area may not be as well known overall. And of course, reputational surveys don't tend to be postgrad specific. Finally, all rankings really will look in some way at a university's research performance. So they'll look at how much research a university produces, how many peer-reviewed journal articles and other publications it generates. They'll also look at how much impact that research has. So how often is it cited by other academics? Is it used by governments or industry or other organisations and so on? And this is more like it for postgrad study because you want your masters to be informed by cutting-edge research, and more to the point, you want the people teaching you on that masters to be the people doing that cutting-edge research. So yes, this can definitely tell you something about that, although again, it's not usually subject-specific, at least not for overall rankings. Finally, one thing to bear in mind is that rankings all weight these methodology factors and measures slightly differently, okay? So one ranking might say that staff-student ratio is very important and that makes up a bigger percentage of the factors it looks at. Another might focus more on reputational surveys or research performance. Here are a few tips for using university rankings when you're looking for a master's degree. First of all, use rankings with a pinch of salt, particularly if they look like they've been created by a website or some other publication with no apparent track record of publishing university rankings and no obvious methodology for you to see. It is very easy to just put things in numerical order. That does not mean that you should. Next, use subject rankings if you can, and you generally will be able to. They're still not postgrad specific, but they will tell you how good a university is in your field, and they'll measure its research performance in your subject area. Remember, master's degrees are very specialised. The best university for your subject won't necessarily be the best university in every subject, and there's really no reason why it should be. Next, use rankings to find good study abroad options. One thing you can do, if you hack the tables a little bit, is look at how well a country's higher education system does overall. So does it have lots of well-ranked universities, in a global league table? You could also find out which countries have the most universities ranked for certain subjects. That probably tells you something about how good that country is or that destination is for postgrad study and research in that area. You can also get a bit clever and dig into the methodology to look at really specific things. A good example is that universities or rankings will sometimes look at how many PhDs a university awards and include that somewhere in the makeup of its research performance. This is really useful actually for postgrad, because a university that awards lots of PhDs is probably a university with a very strong postgraduate community overall, including its master students. Finally, don't just use rankings. Look at other aspects of a university. Look at the staff profiles, find out who's actually going to be teaching you, how research active they are, what their interests are, and so on. Look at the extracurricular opportunities that might come with your course. Look at the modules you'll have the option to do and the dissertation options you could pursue. There's a reason the course details pages on our website are so detailed. Hope you found this useful. Follow us for more advice. See you soon.